Mary Marvin is not available this evening, so I will be presiding as mayor for this evening. I'd like a motion to reopen our public meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, by way of the mayor's report, I was informed just not too long ago that I would be acting in this capacity. I would like to say that we, as the village board, have been spending a tremendous amount of time in recent, and the village administrator and the team on are making stormwater improvements, figuring out a plan to address stormwater issues across the village. And this has been an ongoing effort for well over the last decade, starting with Midland, with a Midland Basin Drainage Project. We have been doing a lot of work with respect to the flooding that occurs at the Sussex and Hamilton intersection, and there's been a fair bit of information, some confusion, some, I'll call it disinformation, and so we have prepared and we are working on finalizing a statement to set out the facts that as we have seen them and experienced them, and we will be posting those to our website very shortly, meaning within the next, in the short period of time. We still have a few people need to review that. But Jim, I'd like to ask you, you have a few talking points sort of hitting the main topic areas of this statement, the village statement.
Sure, yes, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just as some background, as the Deputy Mayor mentioned, the village has and is currently working on various stormwater projects throughout the village to address surface runoff in different locations in the village, different streets. One area in particular that's been the subject of a lot of the discussion as of late, as the Deputy Mayor has mentioned, is the improvements that are planned for the Hamilton and Sussex neighborhoods, extending down Holmesdale, across Locust to and through the Central Park drainage system that the village shares with the city of Mount Vernon. So as background for the project, really starting with Tropical Storm Ida back in September of 2021, and also reoccurring in subsequent events, most notably the April 30th event of 2023 last year, as well as the September 29th event of 2023. But especially with Ida, the Hamilton and Sussex intersection, Hamilton, the street of Hamilton, as well as Sussex, located in the southeast corner of the village, not far from Route 22, suffered some very serious flooding to the point where there was, in the case of Tropical Storm Ida, a significant amount of water on the street. Emergency vehicles were not able to get through the intersection. And that also happened with the subsequent events. So with that, especially following the April 2023 event last year, the board requested that we get our consulting engineer on board to immediately develop a design that could address the flooding in that area and improve accessibility to the roadway and reduce the surface runoff on the roadway, make sure the catch basins are working correctly. And with that, and at the same time, simultaneously making sure that no other neighborhoods were negatively impacted. So the engineer immediately got to work, developed designs, We had meetings with the immediate neighbors in Hamilton and Sussex, got them on board. Another subsequent future phase for improvements to Elm Rock. We also had meetings with residents there. And the proposal involves a drainage system that would follow the existing drainage that currently exists in that area. I think there was some misunderstanding of that, but the existing drainage for that area, for the water that comes off of 22, down Sherman, down Sussex, makes its way to the low point of that particular neighborhood, Hamilton and Sussex, and from there, the drainage runs across Pondfield, down Holmesdale, across Locust, and down Central Parkway. So again, the proposed drainage is going to run the same path. So a new line down the length of Hamilton, parallel to the existing line, a line going across Pondfield to Holmesdale, and then a new line going down Holmesdale, parallel to the existing line, except that the current existing line on Holmesdale is well in the public right-of-way, is in the landscaped areas of the properties. And then from there would tie in at the bottom of Holmesdale, all within the village of Bronxville. Unfortunately, as plans were finalized and contractors were obtained, within the past few weeks, the mark-out of utilities began in anticipation of the work eventually starting, but not starting at this point. But the mark-out of utilities is part of the process, so one knows where the utilities are before construction begins. And then subsequent to that work, the village received a significant number of calls. So, but wanted to emphasize that piece. So, and subsequent to that, on March 1st, the village received a letter from the city of Mount Vernon requesting that the village cease construction of the project and to also address an outstanding MS4 issue. And the letter from the city of Mount Vernon was a surprise in that during the course of the design plans and throughout the month of December and January, we had been communicating with city officials and their consulting engineers, and we received some feedback, sent them follow-up information. And then from on or about somewhere in the middle of January, despite reaching out again, we did not receive any additional information from the city of Mount Vernon. But fast forward, on March 1st, we received the letter saying, do not move forward until we have a chance to review it further and to also address the MS4 issue. In short, the village subsequently responded to Mount Vernon on March 7th, advising them that the village has agreed to suspend the project and arranged to meet with them to hear their concerns. And equally as important, the residents of Holmesdale were not informed of the project, fully informed of the project, aware of potential ramifications. So concurrently, the village will be arranging to meet with the residents of Holmesdale so their concerns so they can understand the scope of the work, understand what's planned, and any impacts that it would have on their neighborhood. So with that, as the Deputy Mayor said, it's our intention to post on the village website a detailed chronology of these events. The other piece that's important to mention here is that in the letter received from the city of Mount Vernon, they raised an MS4 issue. MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, the 4 S's. Every municipality has a storm sewer system, and it's separate from the sanitary sewer system. The letter from Mount Vernon indicates that the village did not address an outstanding MS4 issue. I believe they're referring to a 2022 report that was done from their consulting engineer in their effort to be compliant with consent decree with the federal and state government. In that report, it mentioned particular outfall, which the village does use to discharge its stormwater to, along with much of a portion of that area of Mount Vernon, many neighborhoods. As I understand it, a March 1st, 2022 sample was taken, and the results of which indicated that there was elevated fecal matter, and the March 1st from the city alludes that, references that the source, the originating source of that, that sample is within the village of Bronxville. And I'm not aware of any engineer who's indicated that the specific originating source of that violation from on or about March 1st of 2022 was in the village of Bronxville. But with that being said, I've already met with the city staff, walked the neighborhoods again last week. The village, at our expense, paid to have a contractor not only clean our catch basins, but also televise the city's sanitary sewer line, which extends up Locust. And the fact of the matter is, these MS4 issues are complicated. The report itself says the source is likely Bronxville, but it's not definitive. You have multiple utilities at that location, and as I just said, at that storm sewer system in Locust, which has 2 manholes located in it, one within the city of Mount Vernon, one within the village of Bronxville, also has sanitary sewer infrastructure also right there. So again, what we expressed to the city of Mount Vernon in our March 7th letter is, look, if there's an MS4 violation, as the village always does with our storm sewer system, we make an effort to immediately investigate and analyze data. And already I teamed up with their commissioner, their commissioner of public works, their city engineer, whom I've known for a long time, and they couldn't identify the source, but I told them, look, we need to share information. We take any of these allegations very seriously, because obviously the village has, between our sanitary sewer system and our storm sewer system, we've invested millions. We have a state-of-the-art stormwater system over in the school that was installed that the village of Pelham is now hoping to duplicate to address flooding in the village and town of Pelham. The village has spent millions on lining, replacing, repairing, sealing, televising, and mapping our sanitary sewer system as well. But illicit discharges can come up from time to time, and you seek those out and you find them. But sometimes it can be a little complicated. But it was surprising to see it in the letter, given that over the course of having Zoom sessions with the City of Mount Vernon Public Works Department and their consulting engineer, Arcadis, about the plans for the stormwater improvements, there was no mention of any alleged origination of an illicit discharge from the village of Bronxville, nor did it come up in previous correspondence that I had. And ironically, I reached out to the Commissioner of Public Works in November of 2023, requesting that we requesting that the village and the city partner on the Hunts Woods channel, where we all discharge to, because that channel is a lifeline to a lot of storm water in the area, and it absolutely needs to be preserved. And we use it, the City of Mount Vernon uses it. Quite frankly, maybe some drainage comes from the town of Eastchester, I'm not sure. But no mention of this potential discharge. So it was surprising, but we've been out on site. We're going to find it, we're going to do whatever testing is required, and there's different types of testing that one does, even some dye testing that we've already reached out to homeowners, not unlike what we do throughout the village and other locations when we might potentially get that complaint. So, anyway, just wanted to emphasize that piece, and that we responded to the city's letter. We're working with them, we'll meet with them, and equally as important, we will make sure we meet with our residents to understand the scope of the work and what's planned. It's not, it has never been the village's intention to have more drainage problems on Holmesdale or have any negative impact to the residents there. It has certainly not been our intention to have any negative impact to the residents within the city of Mount Vernon, the other residents and neighborhoods and entities that rely on that Central Parkway line to Vernon Parkway line. The village has been using it for perhaps 100 years. This is how all our storm drainage systems are, just as Tuckahoe relies principally on our Midland Valley drainage basin and our principal trunk line going out to Scout Field. But that being said, we were charged the engineer with looking at the Hamilton-Sussex intersection and what we could do to specifically address that condition. We've had a temporary pump in that neighborhood, and we will be revisiting this, but as we said, the board has suspended the project while we get input. But at the same token, we are, my recommendation is that we immediately look to see what other alternatives we can do to address the immediate condition up at Hamilton and Sussex. Those residents have been very patient, and we've heard from a lot of them. And again, we have many stormwater projects going on, so we try to get input from anyone. And obviously, in our efforts to move as quickly as we can for that area, we didn't explain the project to the Holmesdale neighborhood, and it's important that they understand that they would not be negatively impacted. But again, to try to explain the scope of the project, then I'll stop being redundant, is that there is an existing line that runs all the way down Hamilton across Palm Field now, although when it crosses Palm Field now, it's on an angle that's problematic, so the pipe would be reset. And then likewise, there's a line that goes all the way down Holmesdale now, and there's a reason that was probably designed that way, because when you get to Pine Terrace, there's a significant pitch that then takes it down across Locust and Central Parkway. So again, thank you for listening, and thank you for your patience, and the village will further summarize all this and make a statement on the online, but we did want to at least summarize some of the points for all of you, since there has been confusion and some misinformation and perhaps maybe even some venom that tends to get circulated. But it was our intention only to help out neighbors and to utilize existing capacity that's currently in our shared systems.
Thank you, Jim. And I think we're all committed as a village and as a board and with the village administrator to work very cooperatively and as neighbors with the city of Mount Vernon and with our residents, our affected residents on Holmesdale, as well as Sussex and Hamilton. So we're going to do this as open a process as possible and as cooperative a process as possible.
Maybe I'll just mention one other thing. And I should say, I would think that the city and their consulting engineer would certainly, well, it sounds like they understand our issues and are certainly willing to sit down. And again, we had started that process previously. And Arcadis, I just mentioned Arcadis, who's, as I understand, is the village's consulting engineer, is also... The town's consulting engineer. Sorry, no, Arcadis is the city of Mount Vernon's consulting engineer, yeah. Arcadis was actually also charged or retained by Westchester County some time ago to actually look at the complexities of our individual sanitary sewer systems within all our 45 cities, towns, and villages. So recognizing that it's necessary for all of us to share our systems. That's just the way it works. So even though we've been talking about storm sewer systems, our sanitary sewer systems are also all interconnected. example, Mount Vernon's built a brand-new apartment complex right behind us. That complex has its sanitary sewage run into the village, which in turn runs into the county trunk line, which eventually makes its way to the Yonkers treatment plant. So the point is, their consulting engineer was actually working on the county level to see how communities could better share data, share information, communicate with each other to improve the flow of sanitary sewage.
Right, thank you,
Sir.
Jim. We'll come back to you for more on Crawford later. Any comments from trustees in terms of, I know you have some updates. So, Trustee Knapp?
Just two things, and thank you very much, Jim. That was very comprehensive remarks. So just a couple things. We did have a presentation. Executives from Sustainable Westchester came to our village meeting last month, February 12th, to present the Westchester Power Community Choice Aggregation Program, which is a bulk energy purchasing program that's designed to control costs and to increase the use of renewable energy in Westchester County. They talked about the potential ramifications of Bronxville joining that consortium. I believe almost 30 municipalities in Westchester have already joined. So they've talked about a timeline, the various benefits, some of the considerations that we should keep in mind as we consider whether or not to join. So we are still taking community impact, community feedback. If you didn't attend the meeting last month, please look on YouTube, have a chance to look at their presentation, and we'd really like to hear from the community your thoughts on that matter. We had a very enjoyable march in the Eastchester St. Patrick's Day Parade on Sunday. Trustee Behrens, Trustee Fredericks, myself, our two justices, Justice Nordal and Justice Primps, happy but soggy. It was a really nicely attended event, so very festive, and a really nice kickoff that Eastchester does every year for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, lots of community spirit despite the rain.
Yeah.
Thank you for enduring that. That was from Immaculate Conception to Lake Isle,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's a haul. That's
It
a
was.
haul.
It was a haul.
That's a haul.
In the rain.
But all the bagpipers kept us inspired.
Okay.
And I won't mention any names, but there were some who did not complete the entire trek, but the Bronxville contingent, 100%, the justices, we completed the race. As we feel compelled to do with a former collegiate track star on our board, you know. We weren't going to fall short with you watching us, Mary.
And then,
Trustee
Trustee,
Behrens.
yes, the Picture House Gala was this weekend, and it was a spectacular event. Trustee Knapp and Fredericks and I had the opportunity to attend, and it was a tremendous success, both raising awareness and money for the Picture House. We're very fortunate, as you know, to have the Picture House in our town, and we're very fortunate to have the Picture House running our Bronxville Theater. It is a gem in a community like ours, and we're just really grateful for them, and anything we as residents can do to support them, please continue to do. Attend movies, donate money, and anything else that we can do to keep them here, and because we love our Picture House on Craft Avenue. So,
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing that. Trustee Fredericks.
Just briefly, one of the pleasures of this job is getting updates from our chief of police about developments on the force. I think Officer Cooper passed his EMT training program. I see the chief here tonight. How many officers do we now have who are EMT certified?
We have 5 that have passed New York State exam, and a 6th will be scheduled for it within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we hope to have 6 fully trained EMTs. We spread them out amongst the tours so that every medical call gets an EMT on it, as long as they're not off duty. And we expect to train 2 more in 2024. So that'll bring us to 8.
It's always a pleasure, Chief, to have you here at our meetings, and, you know, we could probably have you go for 20 minutes on, just to summarize all the training activities underway, ongoing, scheduled, completed. But again, thanks for your leadership of the department, and I think we all just take tremendous pride in the quality of our officers and the training that we get. So thank you again, Chief.
And you know, Bill, just it's important context. I think, Chief, if you go back 4 years, or if for minimum, maybe 5 years, I think we had 1 EMT on the force.
Correct.
And so you go from 1 to 8 over a 4-year period, and these people save lives. So this is a huge, huge change, so that we're going to have a EMT in a Bronxville police car, a Bronxville officer, being able to show up before evac shows up, which is a tremendous, tremendous service to this village.
And it's a very hard,
It's a very difficult
Test
course.
to pass.
Very
Very
difficult course, and it's a very difficult test.
so it really, the
And then-
quality of our recruits is just really
It's
speaks to that.
incredible.
Mhm.
And I should acknowledge the partnership that we established with the Eastchester Fire District. They hold what's called CME, Continuing Medical Education, at the firehouse next door. And we've been allowed, through the partnership, to schedule our EMTs to attend that CME class, and that will automatically certify them as time goes by and they attend enough sessions. So that was a big component to it. On the topic of training, I won't take 20 minutes. My annual report's a little delayed. We hope to have it out by the end of March, the latest, and that report will detail a lot of what we discussed here. I know just from working on it this afternoon, we trained more than 4,000 hours in 2023, and that includes in-house and conferences and conventions and EMT and ERU. So it's an impressive report. The draft is completed, and I should have it out by the end of March.
And you'll let the village residents know when the report's out and where they can access it.
Yeah, it's regularly posted on the village
Yeah.
government website.
Yes.
And we'll be putting in the newsletter, of course, for
We'll have a
for
link to
April.
it on the newsletter.
We should have you, though, whenever it's the right time to come and make a presentation at the
I'll be here in
board
April.
meeting. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. It's also worth mentioning that when you talk to the officers who've gone through the EMT training, they're really excited about this. It really enhances their job as well. Oh, my God, it's you again.
I wasn't planning on speaking, but I feel I should at least acknowledge the support from the community, both Bronxville, as well as Tuckahoe and Eastchester and surrounding communities, with the unspeakable acts that occurred on December 30th. We were thrown into a state of shock. We immediately scheduled peer counseling and were assisted by our neighboring communities, as well as every single trustee here and village administrator and village hall staff. So I would just like to thank each and every member of the community that reached out, said a prayer, sent in food. We heard it all. I'm not really able to reply to it all, but we heard it all, and it was greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you for some comments, and perhaps in your comments you can touch upon the what's happening in Crawford as well.
Sure. Honestly, just very short. Most importantly, on elections, next Tuesday the 19th, polling sites are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and the polling locations are the same as they were last year. We have 2 polling locations. Again, if you're not sure, you can actually you could go to the link on our village website. You could also go to the County Board of Elections site and plug your address in, and they'll tell you which district you're in. But again, it's the same place as you would have voted last year for the village elections. 2 polling sites here. The 3 polling sites at the firehouse are once again going to be available. There was discussion that they would eventually be starting construction on that. That's been postponed, so those 3 sites remain the same. And then, of course, the 2 sites up at Christ Church. So please come out and vote. 2 trustees and 1 village justice is up for re-election. Also just wanted to mention that village offices will be closed on Friday, March 29th, and that includes there won't be any sanitation on that day on observance of Good Friday. I wanted to remind everyone to sign up for the village email alerts, so you can also read the newsletter to get important information. We did mention Officer Cooper's latest designation in the newsletter, along with a lot of other useful information. In this month's newsletter, it actually includes information, detailed information on the 2 public hearings that the board's going to be considering tonight, so I wanted to mention that. And in regards to the other stormwater projects, one area that's of deep concern to the village residents and the town of Eastchester residents are those that are experiencing flooding in the roadway, serious surface runoff in what we call the Crawford drainage basin. Crawford, during the, again, the Ida event from 2021, but most notably from the September 29th event this year, much of Crawford was underwater, including at the intersection of North.
And just for people who don't know, Crawford is the street that sort of runs in front of the Cottle School and then down towards
from
behind
Rose,
Iona
almost,
University.
yes, sorry, almost from Iona all the way down to the, well, actually down to the country club. And there's a lot of side streets that intersect with that, several of which are in the village, including Duesenberry, which turns into Archer, Middle, Grove, and North, and Alder, which is off of North, and all those areas have been impacted. So in any event, the engineer has been working on designs there. We've been working with the users of the dog park and the nature preserve to keep them up to speed on that project, since the improvements would be made on village property, but within the limits of the town of Eastchester. The town of Eastchester also needs to make upgrades to the existing Crawford line. So the step where we're at is next Sunday. We're doing it on a Sunday to minimize impacts to the children being released from the Cottle School. We're going to be installing check valves, a backflow prevention valve, if you will, in each of our 4 lines, Duesenberry, Grove, Middle, and at North, where those lines tie into Crawford, because what's happening during these extreme events is the Crawford line is getting so surcharged that it's pushing water back in those lines. And while everyone might not know it, even though it looks like Middle and Grove are dead ends, they are paper streets, and there are storm sewer lines that run underneath the fields. So the valves will essentially allow water to continue to go out, but not get that backflow from the Crawford line. So we're hoping that's going to be an immediate short-term relief while we wait for the town engineer who's been with Kellogg Sessions, who's been communicating with our engineer, PCI, to finalize designs for the Crawford line. And likewise, we're also at a point with that design at this point in time where we need to meet with the Siwanoy Country Club to go over some options for improvements that can make there to get the drainage discharge.
Now, that's the town of Eastchester doing that.
And again, that's where
conversation.
the town of Eastchester is going to coordinate that meeting, and we'll be happy to provide whatever assistance.
But that is not for the village to coordinate that. That has to be done by the town, because it's the town's, Siwanoy is in Eastchester, and it is the town's easement across Siwanoy.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Anything else?
I think that's it, yeah.
Okay, great. So Jim, we have to open a public hearing?
If you could take a motion to open the.
Yeah, I'd like a motion to open a public hearing, please. Okay, Bill, you've seconded?
Second.
Second, thank you very much. So I'd like to open a public hearing regarding local law number 1-2024 regarding sanitary sewer laterals and inspection repairs. And I would say that we being the trustees and village administrator have had conversation about this. We've received some very constructive feedback from residents. We're really pleased at how the interest that's being taken in this. We're very focused on this because this ties in directly to Jim's previous comments about maintaining the integrity of our MS4 system. But I think it's fair to say that we would want to hear if people have comments on this. We'd love to hear your comments, but we will not be taking action on this. We are tabling this for future conversation and more input, because more input and more thought is required on this topic.
So we're going to be keeping the public hearing
We're keeping the
open.
public hearing open for the future. So is there anyone that has comments on this proposed local law?
Did you want me to give a brief summary on it, or?
Yeah, why don't you, yeah.
Sure, and just for the public certification, we do have copies of the local law up front. It's also posted on our website, and in the newsletter, we also explained it in more detail, along with actually a picture. But what the board's considering, and this has only been done by a handful of communities to date in Westchester, is the village's attempt to, at least start with a point of having homeowners have their sanitary sewer laterals inspected and or televised. And that is the pipe, the line that goes from someone's house to where it ties into the village's municipal sanitary sewer line. Within Westchester County, there's hundreds of thousands of sewer laterals. Within the village, we have probably close to 2,000 sanitary sewer laterals. Each home has its own sanitary sewer lateral. Cooperative complexes, high-rises, they may have 1 or 2 sanitary sewer laterals. But the point of this local law is to start a mechanism that would require property owners to have their sanitary sewer laterals inspected and signed off on from the village with a certificate of compliance. And the trigger mechanisms that the board is currently considering in the proposed local law is that would be done upon transfer of a property and or if a property undergoes home improvements of up to $100,000 worth of value over the course of the last 2 years. So that's what's under consideration. The board already did receive one piece of thorough correspondence with some suggestions and some statements, regarding those options. But the point of it is that the village, as I said earlier, has spent significant monies to televise, line, replace our municipal public sanitary sewer lines, but we don't know the condition of the lateral lines from the house to where it ties into the public line, and that is equally as important. And frankly, those can be the site of a illicit discharge, if you will. If you can just imagine a home 75 years old has the original clay pipe going out to the street, and over the course of 75 years, the pipe settled, and that brittle clay pipe cracked, and the homeowner might not be aware of it because sewage is still flowing, but what's happening is it's actually called exfiltration, where the waste can actually percolate into the ground, obviously thereby contaminating the soil and making its way into the waterway or storm sewer system. And in the reverse, if the pipe has a crack and the water table is exceptionally high or you have extreme rain events, stormwater can enter the sanitary sewer pipe, and that in turn can back up into the house or perhaps surcharge the entire sanitary sewer line. So this is also something that the Westchester County is trying to do extensive outreach on, because Again, as I just mentioned, each community is trying to deal with their public lines, but private laterals in this county, there's probably more than 200, and that's equally as challenging. So the local laws are available on the village website. We want the comments. This is a significant piece of public policy legislation. As the board just mentioned, they're certainly not taking action on it now. Appreciate the feedback, appreciate the thoughts, but it is an effort to start to address that issue.
Jim, when do you think would be the timing, as public comments come in, that we might have a revised draft that people could look at?
Honestly, it's up to the pleasure of the board. We put it in the newsletter. I would put it in the next newsletter again for April. The next village board meeting is on April 8th.
It might be to May. I mean, in terms of just thinking about, just realistically, it's probably May.
Yeah.
Maybe what we just do at the April meeting is mention it again and get people to, try to spread the word, to look at it, come up with some thoughts or suggestions on what you, actually, the draft that you have before you was slightly tweaked based on some of the comments that you provided at the last meeting.
So the updated
So-
one will be
Posted.
Yes, that will be posted. I mean, there were only slight changes that we had thus far. I think there was discussion about trying to, I think when we talked about basing it on purchase, again, we were trying to think of a trigger mechanism. There in the village, there's about 60 sales per year, and then we had talked about $100,000 value. So we did use that to include 2 years worth, the total of $100,000 worth of value.
Was there, did we decide at this point not to include the multifamily residences, or is that something we're actively thinking about incorporating? Just because there are so many in the town, or?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, or village council, we are talking about, I should look at the definitions again, because we are talking about value. So I don't know that multifamily would be excluded from that. So I guess that would be a question, if one of the condominium complexes is doing $100,000 worth of improvements, then would they also not be, would that not be applicable to them, Jim, even though?
Or we try to include
I don't recall any exclusion.
Right, I don't either.
Right.
Right, yeah, so I think it would apply to all properties, commercial and residential.
So they might, well, the property might not sell it if they hit the trigger of $100,000 worth of improvements in a couple of years, then they should also provide documentation that the line is in working condition.
Yeah,
Trustee Fredericks.
if there are other comments that come in, it's always very helpful to get comments from residents, but, bottom line for me in looking at this issue is that when a lot of houses and structures in Bronxville were built 75 years, 100 years ago, all these sewer lateral lines were new. I mean, they were new, state-of-the-art clay pipes. And I think that, as the village just had its 125th anniversary, we realized that what, was in good shape 100 years ago, 75 years ago, may require maintenance. We've been trying to upgrade the village's common shared systems, and I think it's just appropriate that the village board be looking at these kinds of improvements and maintaining the entire system, which includes private property owners. And I'll just speak from personal experience. We moved from the city like a lot of residents, didn't appreciate that a lot of things were sort of under the ground, under our front yard when we moved in. And, then we had a sewer backup because, roots from a maple tree in the front yard had gotten into the pipe, and it's like, wow, that doesn't happen if you're on the 11th floor of an apartment building, in Manhattan. But I think that attention on these things is a good thing. Property owners are really probably, it's in their best interest to be proactive without it. We need modern storm drain systems, we need modern sewage systems, and that requires some cooperation and maintenance on the property owner's side. So, again, welcome comments, but, this isn't make work for us. We're trying to, to keep the village up to date so we don't have surprise sewage problems, surprise stormwater problems. We've got enough non-surprise stormwater problems, and we'll see what we can do to improve.
I think I'd also like to say that we're not the first village to be doing this, or the first municipality in Westchester to be doing it. Scarsdale, Rye, possibly, I think Mamaroneck as well, already have
Yes, those definitely those.
local laws in place regarding this. So, and Westchester's putting a big emphasis on it, as you said.
Yes.
So we'll have to, we're going to need to come into line on it.
Great, thank you.
All right, so if there's no comments, then we'll move the
We'll
public hearing and continue it on the May
Continue
meeting?
it on the May meeting.
On the May meeting, yep. Perfect.
Great, okay. Do we need to open a separate meeting for this
Tax
next
cap,
one?
yes, the public hearing.
So
for
I'd
the
like a
tax cap.
motion to open a public hearing. Thank you, Bill. A second from trustee Knapp, so we're opening a public hearing on proposed local law number 2-2024, which is the tax cap override, which comes before us every year. As many of you might be aware, New York State imposes a tax cap on municipalities across the state that prohibits us from increasing our budget by the limit that is the maximum of 2% or the rate of the minimum of 2% or the rate of inflation. So the rate of inflation is about 6% now. So that means we can only raise our budget by 2%, and that requires an override by the governing body of at least 60%. So every year since this has been in place, we have overridden the state tax cap with a majority, unanimously. So with that, any comments from the public as to our proposed override of the tax cap? Any comments from the fellow trustees?
I'd just make the comment that, again, I think most residents of the village who've been here for a while appreciate it, but the vast majority of folks' property tax bills do go to the school, and I think that our treasurer Lori Voss is here, as well as our village administrator, and I think that those of us who have a chance to work with Jim and Lori really appreciate what a terrific job they do in really squeezing every penny of income and keeping expenses down. So we don't speak for the school district. We only speak for village government. But I think no one takes more seriously tax issues and trying to make sure that tax increases are kept to a minimum than our treasurer and our village administrator. And I think we all appreciate the incredible effort you put into that.
Thank you, Bill. And it's in a number of years several of the years in the past, we have overridden the tax cap, but still kept our increase below the 2%, strictly on principle that this is home rule, and we should be able to do what we want. We're going to manage this town, polishing every nickel, but making sure we have the finest services available, the finest police force available. But I'm very committed to the notion of managing our own community.
Maybe if I can just add, since the mayor's not able to make because she wasn't feeling well, but as she would always say, since Trustee Fredericks mentioned that 14 cents of a resident's or a property owner's total tax bill is for the village services, 14 cents on the dollar. But the board does have to consider the tax cap legislation each and every year because that was the way it was established by New York state law. And it has to be, and if the community has any intention of overriding the tax cap, it has to be done before the adoption of the budget. So that's why we consider it this month, because our budget timeline is very tight, because we have to also have the budgets adopted by state law by May 1st. But again, state requires each and every year, separate local law. And as the deputy mayor said, The maximum allowed is the 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. So that means when inflation, as measured by Department of Labor this year, over 6%, local government's capped at 2%, and when inflation for 4 or 5 years, since it's been in inception, was at 0.2 and 0.3%, we were subject to the 0.2% to stay within the cap. So that's the, so there was a little chart that was also in the newsletter that kind of explained the history. I thought that was kind of neat when they showed the 2% and how inflation, of course, has gone up and down. So that's.
Well, thank you very much. So, any comments? Trustee Barron, did you have comments?
Any comments from the public?
Seeing none, we'll close the public meeting. Thank you very much. May I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Okay, thank you,
Second.
trustee. Okay,
Yep.
trustee Barron's for the second. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're going to take a vote.
Well, we're going to approve the minutes, so we're going to go on to new business. Thank you.
Well, should we go ahead and vote?
Why don't we
to
just,
approve?
that'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Great. And would like to make, someone like to make a motion to,
I'll second.
second, all in favor? Aye. Any contrary opinions? No, motion passes unanimously. Mr. Stout, do we need to take a roll call on this, or?
No, that's okay. What you
Okay.
did is fine.
Terrific.
Jim will record what the vote was, but you don't have to do a roll call.
Thank you. So now I'd like to go to the approval of minutes. Second?
I had a few comments, which I gave to Mary Ann regarding the mayor's, in my meeting with the NYP COO and a few other things that we talked about. So we just kind of changed that. But she made, I faxed her my comments, and I sent her a picture of my comments, and she made the changes. Thank you.
Okay, subject to those minor changes, do you have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All's in favor?
Seconding a lot tonight?
Aye. Okay, motion passes, minutes approved. Thank you very much. Awesome, great job managing the balance of being thorough but economical with words. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. So we adopted local law number 2-2024, so we'll go on to the next resolution. Jim, would you like to introduce that?
Sure, this is just a resolution acknowledging that all our ARPA funds, our American Rescue Plan Act funds, received as a result of 2020 are all accounted for, and the village had received a total of $657,228.79, and the village treasurer provided a detailed report showing that all our monies went towards capital projects. Some of these capital projects you've heard before. Principally, it went towards some of the traffic improvements over here at Midland and Gramerton and Pondfield. That was just under $250,000. And also monies went towards police cars, other traffic signal upgrades, and of course, security cameras, and then most recently, the purchase of the flood pump that's installed out on Dusenberry. So again, $657,000, great accounting by the treasurer, and she'll keep all this in the file, and then she's been in communication already with federal agencies regarding regular reports.
Will we get audited on this, or?
No, there's just, we're very small. in terms
Right.
of dollars. We're like minnows.
Yeah. They've got much bigger problems.
But yeah, but what we do is we file annually. It's called SLRF, SLRF. And it's a report you have to file with the United States Treasury.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Lori,
much.
for all your
This is
diligence
this
on
is
this.
the
and
remaining of the
keeping-
money. There is no more money?
This is it.
So
Yep.
this is it. So this is this is the last discussion of ARPA.
That was once in a lifetime thing.
Great. Let's
It was a
hope
good-
so.
It was a good, it helped our village.
It
Thank
sure
you so
did.
much for taking care of all the details and counting every single penny, making sure we got every, every bit that we were entitled to.
Could we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make,
Thank you.
so moved.
Trustee Barons, trustee Knapp, seconded. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and the next item is housekeeping matter, and that is authorizing use of unassigned fund balance to close out several miscellaneous capital projects that have outstanding balances. So Lori also provided a detailed spreadsheet showing resolutions for items that you had already approved, that there were some that you had not. Additional police security camera upgrades is one of the larger items at $48,648. Additional work associated with the Wood End sewer extension that we installed. And also the DPW is listed on here. I should say that's the largest one at $260,000.
Remind us what that is, Jim.
So this is to close out the DPW project, and the DPW was completed in 2021, and our total low bidders were over $4.5 million. However, we did some work as part of that project that was not initially in the bid, and that included repaving the whole police department lot along Palumbo, and anyway, most of that was associated with resurfacing that area desperately needed, and including some improvements to the old DPW building as well. So that's the reasoning for that. So again, it was a total of $697,000 that would be coming out of the unassigned fund balance.
Motion to approve?
So
Questions?
moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Jim and Laurie.
Okay, and the last item.
Just one last question. Are we all, with respect, you mentioned Wood End Lane, are we squared away there in terms of that project finished in terms of connections and residents filing their connection fees?
Yes.
Okay.
With the exception of, again, I met with the Mount Vernon Department of Public Works out on site, because we did actually, right, this was a major accomplishment. We had gone to the city about potentially extending a sewer into the city of Mount Vernon. The goal was to get these homes off of septic, because that septic, again, can leach down into that area in Hunts Woods. The board took the lead of putting these remaining homes on sanitary sewer, I think our last in the village. But we did leave stop valves, if you will, for two properties that have land in the village, but have residents in the city of Mount Vernon, in the event that those two, so there's a check valve for those two properties in the event that they might connect. Otherwise, number 16's paid their connection fee, 12 and 8. I should say the others have paid their connection fees, but I think number 12 was going to be fine. Was going to be doing their sewer connection this spring, I think.
Okay.
But otherwise, the sewer line's all done. They just need their lateral
And the
connection.
road's been repaved.
And the road's been totally repaved. That won't be impacted. The other work will be off of
Their
the roadway.
property,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
And so so with that, there are no more houses on septic systems in the village?
You asking, yes, that's my understanding. I'm not aware of any other septic
Okay,
systems in the
thank you.
village. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, no, it's a great question. So the last project, again, also involves our ongoing sanitary sewer work, and this is requesting authorization to retain Peter Landy for $14,500 to install a sanitary sewer manhole, a new manhole on Vine Street. And I do have one other quote I can give you on that I have to give you on that, Lori. But this would be, so this would be on Vine Street in front of, in the roadway, closest to number 18. Just interestingly enough, there is, it's a short sanitary sewer line on Vine, and the line should be lined to preserve its integrity in the future. And there's only a manhole on one side, believe it or not. So we want to put a manhole on the other end of the sanitary sewer on that street to properly line it, and also to be able to access it if we need to in the future. And the cost of that is $14,500.
Which end of Vine Street is it on?
It's closer to Midland, and I've notify the abutting neighbor that would be installing it, the owner is closest to
So
Midland.
that will allow us to line it if necessary.
Yeah, allow us to line it and access it from that other end if we need to. Otherwise, it's just a dead end right now.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Questions?
Yes, she knows, yeah.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second. Thank you, trustee Knapp. All in favor? Aye. Aye? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, last item is, yes, we're coming up on getting a budget to you, so we schedule the public hearing for the budget in conjunction with our annual meeting, which will be held this year on Monday, April 8th, commencing at 7 p.m. So if you could schedule the public hearing for the 24-25 proposed budget and the annual meeting for that date.
Any questions or comments? Just, this is, you and Laurie have just absolutely changed the game for this village compared to, 10 years ago. So, thank you in advance. I know you're working weekends now, so we're very grateful for that. And would anyone like to make a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Helen. Second. Thank you, Bill. Motion passes. Okay. Any other comments from trustees? Okay, I'd like to open it up for those who would like to make comments to the board on any topic, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, if you would. Also, could you please state your name and address, please?
Yeah, my name is Richard Delaney. I'm a resident of the village. I live at 29 Locust Lane. I have comment about the lack of information shared with the community on Holmesdale relative to this sewer project. We found out about it just when people came around and started putting flags on our property. Apparently meetings were held with other groups impacted by this project, but no one saw fit to notify our community or part of the community relative to that issue. We found out about it at the last minute, and quite frankly, I personally am very disappointed. I reviewed some of the engineering plans that were outlined by the engineer from the village, and someone would have to explain to me how an increase of 400% capacity is not going to impact the part of the community that's downstream from that. So I don't know whether anybody has a comment about that on the board, but that's what the village engineer indicated. Furthermore, he indicated that they're going to take a 36-inch pipe and feed that into the current 24-inch pipe. I've studied fluid mechanics. I don't know how that's possible unless you can compress fluid, and to my understanding, that's not possible. So where is all that water going to go?
Right.
We already have problems on Locust Lane. It floods every time one of these storms has occurred. It's flooded on the corner of Holmesdale and Locust. That catch basin fills up with weeds. It fills up with detritus that's washed down from Sturgis. The water comes down Sturgis. It makes a turn onto Locust and in the catch basins on both sides of Holmesdale. And at times, the water comes out through the manhole cover that's on my property at the corner of Locust and Holmesdale. So my own opinion is that this is poorly thought out. I don't see how it can work. Someone would have to explain to me how you can take 400% increase in capacity in a system that's already overloaded, and I think it's just transferring one area's problem, which I am very sympathetic to another area's problem. And I think this needs to be really reviewed by someone beyond the capacity of the village engineer. I looked at the plans, 30 pages of them, and they don't make sense to me. How you can take a 36-inch pipe, put it into a current 24-inch pipe, now you have 24 inches of water coming down and another 36 inches. Where's that water going to go? The valve that they propose to put, in case it is overflowed, is going to vent to the street. And when it vents to the street, now the street, which already at times is a river, and I have video of that, and I'm happy to share it with any members of the board, it's going to turn into a gusher. And the people downstream from this already are impacted and are flooded, just like the people up on Hamilton and Sussex and those areas. And I'm very sympathetic to that population of people, but this is not the solution as far as I'm concerned.
One, we should have done a better job communicating. So apologies on that in terms of the flags showing up. That was a whiff on our part. Two, we are hiring another engineer to review these, a separate engineering company to review these plans. So more work needs to be done.
Was this coordinated with the county? And, also, there was someone said that it was coordinated with the village of Mount Vernon. The engineer, when it was presented to this board on the video that I watched belatedly, because I wasn't aware that this plan even existed, he said that there was very little communication with the people in Mount Vernon. So where does that disconnect occur? How can you take all that water and dump it into their system? And look, I'm a Bronxville guy, but at the same time, you're putting an awful lot of water right in my front yard.
Yep. Okay, we'll look into it. We are studying it. We are hiring another.
And I have another comment that I'd like to make, because
Please.
Mary Marvin, when she writes letters in the Bronxville Village Voice or whatever it is, makes all these comments about preserving trees and expanding the absorptive area of the ground. And every time I turn around, someone's putting in a new swimming pool. They're expanding their property. That's all great, but it significantly decreases the area for absorption. Every time you take down a tree that has a 6-foot diameter trunk, or 6-foot diameter trunk, it really impacts. And if you look at a lot of these houses where the flooding is occurring, that's what's happened.
We also need to take a look at, we have updated our zoning and our FAR. In 2021, we did a major look at setbacks and FARs, and that needs to be a process that continues, particularly in light of this increased intensity of downfalls. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Okay, well, seeing none, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for the constructive comments and the constructive tone. We'll really appreciate that. So with that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And our next
Motion
meeting
passes.
is April 8th
April 8th.
at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.